With both Ncuti Gatwa and Russell T Davies hinting at Whoniverse, a lot of people have been speculating at what Doctor Who spin-offs we might get. In this video, I want to discuss what spin-offs I personally think would work, as well as what spin-offs we could possibly see. Okay, so Ncuti Gatwa recently posted photos to social media hinting at a Doctor Who expanded universe known as the Whoniverse, and Russell T Davies has previously hinted at Doctor Who spin-offs in the past, and when talking to GQ magazine has confirmed new spin-offs are happening. In terms of what spin-offs we could see, one of the first obvious options is a Torchwood reboot, as Torchwood was a show that was created during Russell T Davies' first era of Doctor Who. Now, for obvious reasons, it's unlikely John Barrowman would return as Captain Jack Harkness, and unless he takes accountability and apologises for his actions, I think that's a good thing. But I personally think Gwen Cooper would be a great lead for Torchwood anyway, and I think she's personally a lot better of a character. So I'd like to see her leading a new Torchwood team if this Torchwood reboot does happen. I'd also like Rhys to return as part of the team, sort of fill in Yanto's role of being the man kind of on the computer, but he could also take part in the field in some of the missions as well. As for the rest of the team, I'd like a brand new team with some brand new actors that we've not seen before, instead of just bringing back a load of past companions and characters we already know, which I think will actually not be that interesting. Although with that being said, I could see Martha joining the Torchwood team if it is rebooted, as she has been in the team in the past. However, I do personally have her down for another possible spin-off that we might get. Speaking of Martha's return, I also think a unit series could be something that we could see. The Power of the Doctor hinted that Kate Stewart might recruit some of the Doctor's past companions to join UNIT.
I will also say I may want to recruit for some work.
And I personally think we could see a show that focuses on UNIT with Kate Stewart in the lead and other characters such as Osgood, Martha Jones, and also hopefully again some new characters to fill in the rest of the team. Now, as I said, it is possible we could also see some other returning companions as part of the team, such as Ace, who we did also see in The Power of the Doctor. But I personally think Ace would be better utilised in her own show, similar to the Sarah Jane Adventures, which could be aimed at the same younger audience that Sarah Jane Adventures was aimed at when it was on CBBC. Speaking of Sarah Jane Adventures, I would also love to see a Bannerman Road show with the return of Luke, Ronnie, and Clyde solving mysteries and defeating aliens at Bannerman Road. Although unlike Sarah Jane Adventures, I do personally think this series should be aimed at an older audience than Sarah Jane Adventures was, as the fans of that show, if they are the ones watching it, will have grown up by now. But with that being said, I wouldn't want it to be as adult as Torchwood was, just more mature than Sarah Jane Adventures originally was. And it would also be fun if this series could see the return of K9 as part of the team as well. Now, before I get on to the main spin-off idea, I first have a couple smaller ideas for an animated spin-off of Doctor Who. I think an animated Doctor Who Adventures show would be really cool, with us following an indistinct incarnation of the Doctor, similar to what was proposed in the 90s for an animated series of Doctor Who. Or this series could follow a different incarnation for every episode. And I personally think these episodes should be very short, from around 10 to 20 minutes long. Similarly, I also think a K9 animated series would be really cool, which would basically follow the same sort of idea, but with K9 as the main character instead of the Doctor. Although this might be more difficult, as I don't believe the BBC have the rights to K9 at the moment, but I'm sure that is something that could be worked out. Now, obviously, it'd be weird if I went through this whole video without discussing an 8th Doctor series, which people have been asking for ages, as the 8th Doctor is one of the most popular Doctors, but has received very little screen time, mostly existing on Big Finish. And for me personally, the 8th Doctor is probably my favourite Doctor, so I would love to see this show, obviously. But I do personally think this show would need to be distinct from the main show, and it couldn't just be Doctor Who, but with the 8th Doctor, as that would be too similar to the main show, and people might get a bit confused, with two versions of Doctor Who running basically at the same time, even if the shows are aired months apart, and that could even make it more confusing. So because of this, I think this show would need to be a lot more serialized, focusing on one big story, possibly something set during the Time War, and could maybe be inspired by some stories from Big Finish. Or completely new stories could also be created for this, which does lead to the possibility that it could clash with some of the canon from Big Finish, which could annoy some people. But ultimately, whatever we see on the screen is more likely to be considered canon than Big Finish, unfortunately, for some people. And I personally think a show like this would work better as a limited miniseries, similar to what Disney Plus do with the Marvel and Star Wars shows, where it only runs for one season of about 6 to 8 episodes. But those are just a few ideas I have, and I'm sure you have some ideas for some spin-offs of Doctor Who, and if you do, please leave them in the comments below. I'd like to read them. And if you'd like to watch any more videos I've made, I've got a video here where I talk about everything we know so far about the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials.